and you can email me at juliesquietplace@gmail.com, or you can send me a DM on Instagram at juliesquietplace. But with that being said, and without further ado, let's get into tonight's stories, shall we? So, the first story was sent to me by a lovely subscriber called Matthew. Matthew's story is called The Haunted Ramey House. When I was about 15 or 16 years old, my family and I moved into a rental property known to us as the Ramey House. This was because the property had been in the Ramey family for at least a century. The house was mostly one story, with an upstairs attic/bedroom and a dugout basement. That means that the basement was just dirt floors and walls. And the house was situated off of the main roadway with a long gravel drive that ran between two cow pastures. A small barn and family graveyard were also on the side of the driveway. The layout of the house was basically a big circle with access points for the basement and the attic right in the middle of the home. I was fortunate enough to lay claim to the attic/bedroom. My family and I had several paranormal experiences during our 12-month stay there. First, my own experiences. One night, while taking a shower, I had just started washing my face, and I heard someone ask, "What are you doing?" I couldn't make out if it was a male or a female voice, but it didn't sound like anyone in the family. I froze and I wiped off the soap over my eyes and peeked out of the shower. No one was there. Freaked out, I quickly rinsed off the rest of me and I got out. This was when I remembered that I had locked the door to the bathroom when I came in. I quickly unlocked and opened the door with a towel around my waist. The living room was situated roughly at a 100-degree angle from the bathroom. There, my family was sitting, watching television, just minding their own business. I must have had a look on my face because my mother turned and asked what was wrong. I hesitated and asked, "Did anyone come into the bathroom while I was in there?" They kind of looked at me strangely and assured me that none of them had come into the bathroom. Now, I explained what happened and they just kind of laughed it off lightly. I went to my room in the attic and I got dressed, scratching the event off to being unexplained. My second strange experience was in my attic/bedroom. When you walked up the stairs, you were met with a landing and a window. Now, I had set a desk there was as if someone's shoulder met with my own and we walked by each other. But there was no one else up there but me. At this point, I had made peace with the fact that I was sharing this space with some unseen force, an entity, if you will. I quickly hopped in bed and I went to sleep. Now, my stepfather had the most intense experiences. Once, while he was in the basement, he heard my mother call for him from upstairs. He called back, but he was met with no reply. He just kind of shrugged it off and carried on working. Then he heard my mother call for him again. And again, he called back and there was no reply. By the third time he heard my mother call for him, he had gone upstairs and just asked my mother what she wanted. She looked back at him confused and she stated that she didn't know what he was on about. Another interesting experience he had was when he was alone in the house. It was nighttime and he had laid down on the living room couch. He was startled by the laughter of children and then footsteps running through the house. He stated that he would hear what sounded like two children running around the house, stopping and then laughing. Then he would hear heavy footsteps follow behind them. This would then prompt the children to take off running once again. One interesting note was that when the footsteps ran into the kitchen, he could hear what sounded like saloon doors opening and closing again. We ended up finding saloon doors in the basement and evidence that they were once attached to the kitchen doorway. Another tidbit from our time at the Ramey house wasn't scary but rather interesting. While cleaning out the basement, my parents found a crudely hand-drawn map that appeared to lead to the family graveyard, more specifically to the grave of a young child that had died 10 years or so before. Now, no one was brave enough to go exploring that gravesite though. First of all, I want to thank Matthew so much for sharing his experiences with the channel. This was such an interesting story, and it's interesting how the experiences of both Matthew and his stepdad were so different from each other, even though they happened in the same house. You know, with Matthew, it was more that he sensed the presence of something, and it was more kind of subtle, whereas with his stepdad, it's like the presence, the entity was playing tricks on him, you know, with making it sound like Matthew's mom was shouting him and stuff like that. The last bit though about the saloon doors, it is wild to me, like, because saloon doors are such a specific thing. They're not something that you would find lying around in just any basement, you know, it's very specific. And then for his stepdad to hear that sound and then later on find those saloon doors in the basement must have really creeped him out. I am also very interested to know what that map is marking, like what is hidden in that graveyard, which must be such an eerie feeling to be around that, like, all the time. Alright, moving on to the next story, which is very different and very strange. This story was sent to me by a subscriber named Lisa, and Lisa is actually the daughter of Riley, who had shared a story with us in the last subscriber stories video. Lisa also has a YouTube channel where she does all sorts of crafts, so I will link that in the description box. Her story is called Barbie's Pet Mouse. I had just gotten a big Barbie poster for my bedroom. It was pretty and it was perfect until a month or two later. I was sleeping, and when I woke up, I noticed that my Barbie poster had a mouse cut out on the hand. Now, I was confused and sad, and I didn't know who ruined my poster, so I asked my mum and my stepdad, but they didn't know who had done it. I also asked my brothers, but they were too little to understand. Now, about a week later, we travelled 30 minutes to get to my grandma and grandpa's house before they moved. The adults were talking and no one knew what happened. It was like someone took it out of the frame, took a saw and cut right through the wood, my grandma said. Yeah, I thought, but I was also thinking that if somebody broke in, why wouldn't they steal my TV or my iPad or my phone? They didn't touch anything. Since all of that happened, the door to my bedroom would just randomly open. I would feel like I was being watched. Things that were secure would fall or would move. And the most scary thing for me was the feeling that I got in my bedroom. I'd be calm 1 second, and then the next I would feel really weird and really scared. It's hard to explain. But the only way to stop that feeling was to run out of my room and shut the door, wait a few seconds, and then go back in. And then when I do that, everything feels normal again. Now, a few months ago, I asked my stepdad why there was a mouse cut out of my poster, and he claims that he bought it like that. Now, Lisa has also attached some pictures of this hole in this poster, which is so strange. I'll show you the pictures. So as you can see, you know, that hole isn't like a perfect mouse shaped. Like, it looks like it just accidentally resembles a mouse more than anything. As you can see, that poster is framed, so I don't know how that happens. Like, that is so wild to me. out. It completely baffles me. I don't know where that comes from. That is so strange, especially because the poster is framed, like I said, and because it's not like a perfect mouse, like it accidentally resembles a mouse. It is so strange. I really like this story. It's very different, but I hope the situation improves soon for Lisa so that she doesn't feel scared in her own bedroom anymore. The last story for tonight was sent to me by a subscriber named Andres. Now, Andres shared his paranormal experiences with us. I have memories of strange things happening in the house where I grew up since I was a little child. It's the typical haunted house stuff, I guess. Chairs moving, creepy noises in the walls. Back then, I used to live in fear. Everyone in the family knew something was wrong, but they pretended like nothing happened to not scare me. Time passed, and while I grew up, my family knew that they couldn't hide the obvious anymore. That's how, at age 14, I learned that the former owner of the property, Monica, committed suicide in an apartment 4 blocks from our house. My parents explained that although the police called it a suicide, a lot of mysteries were left unsolved in the case. Now, maybe that's why the house was haunted. I used to believe that. My parents were strong Catholics. They called a priest to bless the house twice. They even arranged a mass for Monica's soul, and that was it for them. They even told us, me and my 4 sisters, that it was best for us to forget about the haunting. Now the problem is that what my parents didn't help even a tiny bit, mainly because the entities living in my house are different than usual. There's this cliche about ghosts. People think ghosts hide and only appear sometimes to scare you, some sort of strange peekaboo game. And how wrong they are. Real a sister mainly. It all begun like 7 years ago. My sister Mary told us how something tall, something shadow-like, watched her sleep. She often woke up in the middle of the night with an unsettling feeling, only to look up and see that that thing was watching her. She was getting so scared that she started sleeping with our family dog, a boxer called Bianca, rest in peace. Oh, I hate it when dogs or, any other animals die in stories, so I'm so sorry that Bianca died. That dog was always alert, and she reacted to the slightest movement, but oddly enough, when that thing appeared, it could make Bianca sleep like a log. Even if my sister poked her, she wouldn't wake up. Things got worse, and she started to wake up with bruises and horrible feelings. She was desperate for help, and my parents called the priest once again. He told my sister that maybe the thing that was bothering her was inhuman, a demon, so to speak. He gave us holy water and exorcised salt to put in my sister's bedroom. He also suggested to put some saint statues in my sister's room. He explained to us that my sister was experiencing a demonic infestation and only faith would help us. Now the truth is that I'm not a Catholic person myself, and I don't think that would help. And it didn't quite. As I see it, each religion or belief explains things in their own way. But I do understand why the Catholic Church called them demons. You can feel their evil intentions, unlike with most ghosts, which scare us just because we don't understand them, or because they do playful things, moving things and hiding stuff, etc. Now, these demon entities, they want to harm you. Now, first of all, I want to thank Andres for sharing his story with us on the channel. I've spoken to Andres, and they are still currently living in the house where all of this is going on, and it has been going on for quite a few years. Now, it's like Andres said, you can experience little paranormal things, and if you don't have an option to leave the house, I feel like maybe you could get used to them in a way. But then I'm talking about, strange noises, things moving or things disappearing. But when it gets really dangerous, when the real problems start, is when people are getting physically harmed. He said that his sister had bruises on her body and she couldn't sleep, so she was getting sleep deprived. And when stuff like that happens, when people are actually being physically harmed, that is when things go too far. Now, luckily, in the very near future, he said that they will be moving to an apartment, or they will be moving to a new place, which I think is a good thing in this case. You don't want to risk things escalating. those were today's subscriber scary stories. Once again, thank you so much to the lovely subscribers who shared their stories with us on the channel.